Hi, my name is Eva Steiner, and this is my project Psychotherapists Around the Globe. I am interviewing the psychotherapists around the world and asking them the same 8 questions. I am wondering how mental health profession is in their country. Today we are going to Thank you for taking this time and doing this interview with me. Before we start, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I'm a psychologist. I was born in Belarus, in Minsk. It's capital of our beautiful country. And I started my psychologist job and education in Minsk. But now I live for almost 2 years at North Cyprus because I want to move, I think, 10 years, even more. It was my dream since I first time came to Cyprus, and now it's come true.
Tell me a little bit about your culture. What is some holiday or tradition that your country celebrates? And if your country would be an emotion, what emotion would it be?
I can say that we like New Year, celebrate this holiday. I see difference within other countries traveling around the world, and a lot of countries prefer Christmas. But in our country, we celebrate New Year even several days. It's a family holiday, and I also like to celebrate it with my family. We prepare presents for children, and they most waiting New Year holiday, but not Christmas, because they know that they will get something from Ded Moroz. It's Santa Claus in our country, Ded Moroz, and from their parents. And I also like this Christmas, and both with New Year, and I even celebrate two Christmas here, and I like Christmas tree. It's like remembering from my childhood, and we have special food for this, like salad olivier and mandarin. It's fruits.
Yeah, we call it mandarina.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
symbol of New Year, and we like these holidays. About emotion, I think it's calmness, because in our culture I'm not see a lot of impulse people. For example, they were calm, and a lot of them so much like to be with home in this with their family in their home in warm, and not to be, for example, aggressive or impulse. They prefer to be calm.
How did you become a psychotherapist in your country, and what is your therapeutic approach?
First, I got my education in Russia. I got my psychology education. Then I choose my modality, my approach. I in love with transaction analysis, and I choose it first. And then I want to also get education in schematherapy, because I like this connection between CBT and transaction analysis, because a lot of tools in schematherapy, and it can be very good with disorders, because I start to work first in rehab center, addiction people in Minsk. I saw a lot of disorders there, and I thought that I need more tools for working with this, because I like transaction analysis for its deepness, because we can go to childhood to find reason of this behavior. But sometimes people want something to happen right now, and for this I like schematherapy, and also now I'm studying extra fast therapy. It's a lot of approach together to help clients during 3 or 5 sessions, for example, or during even one session. If, for example, client has no money for more sessions, or he needs help in right now, don't want to wait. Yes, it's not approach, but it's a lot of tools together from different approach.
Is it common to go and study in Russia? Or can you do the same, like psychological degree, and then approach us also in your country?
I can get education in Russia, for example, and also like in Belarus, but I choose university, not because in Belarus there is worst education. No, it's not like this, because schematherapy I choose in Belarus, in Minsk Center of CBT, and it was amazing. But for example, because of politics, we have problem with our education abroad, because Russian and Belarusian education is just for us.
Do you need to be a psychologist to work in mental health field? Or can I go directly to psychotherapeutic approach and then I can work as a psychotherapist?
No, you need first to get a diploma of psychologist. It's first, and then modality to choose modality of schematherapy, for example, or transaction analysis, but it will be the second one.
How society looks upon psychotherapy or any psychological help?
A lot of people are still in our country afraid to be ashamed for asking help, and it's, I think, even from USSR times, maybe earlier even, especially men. And I saw a lot of people with addictions who are afraid to ask help, and they said, no, it's everything okay with me, don't worry. And it's very sad, really, because I know that in other countries more open minds with psychology, and it's very good. But I hope that this generation, younger than me, this last generation, will be more open with this, because it really can help. And I see it even because a lot of young people come to therapy not waiting they are 35 or 40 years old, but they came earlier and ask help. And their parents, for example, it's my generation, their parents are asking help for their children already, and a lot of people. Also, I think it's connect with moving abroad. A lot of parents are asking help for their children, because it's very difficult for children to lose their friends, to lose their schools, for example. And I see it in here. The Cyprus, because here is a lot of people from Ukraine, Russia, Belarus. Yes, parents asking help. And I hope it will be help their children in future to be more open minds with asking help and with psychology.
And if you ask for psychological help, how does society see you? So what is the stigma if you are asking for help?
Sometimes it can be like some relatives can or some friends can tell you, just speak with me, or let's go drink. It's a really problem. Let's drink, for example, and speak, and I will help you. It become easier, but it's not helping. It's helping to addiction. Yes, unfortunately, people look to you sometimes, not often, and it depends on, of course, people. They look to you like, what? You look good. You have home, for example. You have normal family. Yes, everybody shouted. For example, every couple has some problem, but for what you need help like this? It's weakness.
And how is help available? Do you need to go to the doctor, to public health system, and you get psychological help, or do you need to pay privately for psychological help in Belarus?
For example, if you're adult, we don't speak about children, because in school they have a psychologist, but it's most of all to pay. And it's another problem, because it's not such high price like in other countries, and it can be even cheaper, but sometimes people have no money, or sometimes they think that have no money for this, but they prefer sometimes to go to bar, to restaurant, or something like this, or to buy something. But most of time, yes, they really don't have enough money for therapy, and to go there, for example, once a week, it's very expensive for them. And in our society, if you have a psychotherapist, it's you are rich.
How it is then to work as a psychologist, therapist there? To me, it sounds like people are a little like reluctant to go to therapy, and also maybe they cannot afford the therapy. So as a therapist, do you have enough clients, or is it hard to get by with this profession?
I started work online from another country. Why? And by the first time it was in rehab, so I don't need clients there, because cancel in rehab. But in our country now, I think it's one of the most popular profession in Belarus, really. And they have not enough clients, but not because people don't go to them, but because a lot of psychologists, and it's also reason, for example, low price, because very high concurrence we have, and even sometimes without payment in the beginning of their practice, for example, to have some practice and hoping that this client will stay with him for a long time.
Is there any law for psychology in Belarus?
Yes, of course, we have law, and for example, we need to have supervision. We should to have private therapy, and we need to prove it with paper, and we should to have diploma. And yes, of course, we have laws about this.
What about law for psychotherapy?
We also have laws for both, because we have like psychiatrist, psychologist, and psychotherapist, and we have difference between them, because psychologist you can be without medical education, but other two just with medical education.
Okay, so psychotherapist needs to be with medical education.
Yes, because they have deal with medicines and diagnosis disorders, and they should be with medical education, if it's by law, really. Because sometimes some people can write, for example, that he's a psychotherapist, but actually it should be with medical education, or you can write that you psychologist and psychotherapist, but not doctor psychotherapist. But most of people don't know about difference between them.
What is your society teaching about child-parent relationship, and whether these values of society also influence how you design your interventions as a therapist?
It's a very good question, because unfortunately relationships between parents and their children in our society with some problem. For example, most of families live without personal boundaries at all. A lot of families lives in one apartment several generations. Of course, if you have two rooms, for example, for 5 or 6 people, about which boundaries we can speak, it's a problem, because children from these families, they has no safety, they don't know about this, they has a lot of anxiety and safety.
What do you mean by safety? Don't have a lot of safety?
Because needing safety, for example, it's about private place, some private place about private things. But a lot of our parents and grandparents don't know about this. They can, for example, to check bags of their children.
Yeah, so the personal space is always like open.
Yes, it's always open, and children are growing in this atmosphere. And then, for example, they come and are surprised about what boundaries and pride, because they don't understand about this. Also, a lot of parents, they not asking with voice, but it's in our society like children should stay with their parents. It can be sometimes not be allowed to move to another country. Not in every family, but society will think about this, how you can leave your parents here, for example. It's not about private life, you understand? A lot of people, sometimes it's women who forget about their lives and to choose to stay with their parents, to care about them, but they're unhappy. They're really unhappy, but they even don't think about this. It can be happy, because first of all, they should care about their parents. It's first thing in their minds. Also, we have a very good thing in our society. It's a maternity leave. It's 3 years in our country. It's really good for child brain, but it's very hard for women. Because, for example, it's good that you can stay with your child 3 years and to see him, but most of parents decided, because of society and their stigmas, that women should care about children, and it's very hard for women, because they should to be good mother. Russian, Ukraine, Belarus people, we have very high level to be a good mother. You shouldn't cry on your children. You should care about his education. even from 2 years old to, for example, he should go to swimming pool, to gymnastic, to something else, and you should be a beautiful woman. You should care about your house. You should care about your husband, because if there are any problem in your home, it's most of all a problem of woman. People can say that she forget about her husband, or she forget about herself, but they don't think about how it's hard to be a woman with small child and to lost your job, lost your socialization, lost a lot of your friends because they stay there. But now you are here without sleeping with these problems, and it's really difficult. And in our society, for women, it's not allowed to be rude, to be angry, for example. You should hide your like bad emotions, but if of man it's normal, because he should be strong, he should protect his family, but for women not. Of course you can, it's not about all people, you understand. Yes, but for example, previous generation, my parents, they think like this.
And if you get a client, how do you approach these society norms? Because in therapy, we encourage emotions, even bad ones. So, how open are clients?
It's very important to teach them to ask help, because it's one more stigma in our society. Women should be strong. It's really, I grow up with this thing that I shouldn't ask help. Never. I should do everything by myself. I think it's from a previous century, maybe from war times, because it was very hard for our countries, for Belarus. First people in Belarus died that time, and women stayed alone with their children, and they should to be strong. They can't to think about emotions. They should to think about food, about surviving. But then they tell about this to their children. For example, it's my parents, and we live with this, we're growing with this. And first of all, it's very important to teach a client to understand that it's normal to feel fear, angry, because these feelings are like forbidden in our society. And it's good to express them, but echo, not to push somebody, but to, for example, push pillow or something like this. Safety. It's first of all, and then to understand that it can be reason. For example, a lot of people come with panic attacks, with depression, for example, because they live with this feeling that they can't to ask helping when they feel not normal, for example, and they can't come to a specialist. They should to be in normal by themselves.
They should somehow help themselves.
Yes, it's yes, I think it's the most of all understand that it's normal to feel angry inside of you. It's not bad, because for example, it's a problem also with men. They so much hide their feelings deep inside of them, and you even can ask a man, what are you feeling? And he will tell you nothing, normal, normal, like this.
Yeah.
Because men should be strong, women also should be strong, but also should to be beautiful, successful, to care about children, about men, and everybody shouldn't be angry. But then it's everything expressing with their families inside of home.
Alcoholism, like addictions.
Yes, like addictions.
If an adult client would come to you and said, I don't want to see my parents anymore, I want to cut contact, how would society look upon such a request, and how would you approach as a therapist?
Society will say, it's your parents. How you can do
Yeah.
it? You shouldn't, it's your parents. But I will ask client about is there any grudge, for example? Is there any reason not speaking with them, for example? Because sometimes it can be. And if it's normal for client, Okay, I just be near him because we are not judge them, of course. And the most important for me that it should be good and it should be comfortable for client. Maybe in 1 year, for example, he will change his decision. But if it's not problem for him now, okay. But most of all, it's a lot of angry in these relationships because also parents can tell to their children you shouldn't be angry with me because they hasn't such resource to feel it from their children, and it's an easier decision to say to children you shouldn't cry to me because I'm your parent.
What are the learned beliefs regarding client-therapist relationship, and can the relationship continue outside the therapy once the therapy process is over?
For me, this question about ethics questions because, for example, first part about friends, they sometimes it's very interesting. They can ask, give me advice like psychologists because everybody thinks that psychologists should get you advice, but we shouldn't or ask where is my husband. They don't know about this ethic questions that it shouldn't be somebody whom I know. So yes, we have also the same ethic rule in Belarus, but as I know, or you told that in your country you have, for example, 5 years after therapy, you should wait to be with relationships. In our country, it's 1 year. But also you should wait. It's not about all specialists, of course, because some, even so, some of them starts to has relationships on work. It's out of ethic, but yes, we have the same ethic rules. We have the same law.
And for example, if there is therapeutic abuse, so the therapist is the one crossing the line, maybe sexually approaching the client, for example, or pursuing the relationship with the client while in therapy, so not after a year, can a client turn to some organization or something where he or she can report the therapist?
Of course, he can.
You have like a psychology organization or where the client can go?
It depends on working of psychologists because sometimes it can be some organization or it can be a private specialist. It depends on it.
Is supervision a must for a therapist in your country?
Yes, we necessary to have supervision. It's very important for all specialists. As I told you before, if you want, for example, to register any sites for psychologists, they will ask you about improvement paper with these hours of supervision. But sometimes when you begin your career, you have no clients. But for these sites, for example, you should have supervision. You have no clients, but you should have private therapy, supervision. I can understand, for example, about therapy, of course, but supervision without any clients.
What are the most common complaints that the client comes to therapy for?
I think it's addictions, a lot of
Yeah.
addictions, but sometimes it's, for example, husband or wife ask people to go because they're afraid to be shamed for this. And it's panic attack, it's depressions, and relationships, of course.
And you mentioned a little bit before, but I will ask you anyways, is there any generational trauma so that maybe you see some event in history that is still influencing the people today?
As I think, it's just my opinion, it's a problem that society think that a woman should be very strong. She should be everywhere. She should be good wife, to do everything in her house by herself without any helping, to be a good mother, to be beautiful, to be successful. She should be very strong, yes, and not telling to anybody that she tired, for example, or that it's hard to be mother.
And this you feel it might come from war times where the women were alone because of a lot of men felt in war or were killed in wars. And they needed to be strong at that period, but this is continuing into newer generations.
Yes, because even when you start to tell to your parents, for example, oh, ma, it's too hard to not sleeping with child. I want to have some days out of my house. Most of all, said to say to you that you couldn't imagine how we did it in our time without any techniques, without, for example, comfort like you have now. And they will say you like this without any
Yeah.
support.
If you would share one tool, belief, or approach that is a must have for you as a therapist, what would that be?
To be open with your client, with your feelings. A lot of time in the beginning of my career, I think that therapists should has poker face. Every time. But for example, me, very emotional. Very. I even can keep silence, but my eyes and my face will express everything. And I think how I can teach them to express their feelings if I will be with poker face sitting in front of them. How it can be afraid to show them angry or something like this. Yes, I think it's the most tool to show clients that it's normal to, for example, crying because you are happy. It's nice. It's wonderful. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to be afraid of something because everybody afraid. And of course, the second maybe, if you let me tell the second one, without any judgment.